It is Croctober, and this morning when I woke up, it was 39 degrees. So you know what that means. It's soup season. Soup season is finally here. Soup, it's what's for dinner. I'm gonna share with you some of my absolute favorite crock pot soups you can make in your slow cooker, and none of these are taco soup. So if you are looking for some new recipes, some different recipes for your slow cooker, then you have come to the right video. Tonight is a kid requested favorite, broccoli cheddar soup. I'm using a recipe from Eating on a Dime. I'll leave it linked in the description box below. I'm gonna get everything prepped and then I'll show you what's in it as we put it all in the crock pot. Into my slow cooker, I am placing some veggies. I did about 1.5 stalks of celery chopped, about half of a large onion chopped. And then the recipe does not call for carrots, but I had a few in my crisper and I decided to peel those and then grate them up really small. So all of that is going into the slow cooker right now, plus 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 cloves of garlic pressed. Carrie's recipe calls for about 4 cups of broccoli chopped, and I bought about a 1.5 pound package, which was more than enough. There were a few bad stalks that I had to remove, and I also removed some of the chunkier stalks, some of the chunkier stems. But some of the stems that were on the broccoli florets I did keep. I just chopped everything up, gave it a rough chop, and then I rinsed it in a vinegar rinse in the sink. Now I'm adding that to the slow cooker. Salt and pepper to taste. 4 cups of chicken broth, which I just made from water and broth base. And before I add this in, I'm going to stir in 1/4 cup of cornstarch. I just want to stir that until the cornstarch is dissolved. And then I will pour this into the slow cooker with all of the other ingredients. Carrie's recipe says to let that cook on low for 4 to 6 hours. Ours will probably be cooking right at around 5 hours or so. Dale and I are about to take the kids out to Dave & Buster's for a little fall break fun.
You guys, this is in these like slot machines, just like a degenerate gambler, but on this coin game.
Listen, you have your spin to win. Come on, watch. Boom. Boom.
When we get back, I will stir in 1 cup of heavy cream and 4 cups of shredded sharp cheddar. That is 16 ounces, or the equivalent of, 2 small blocks shredded of cheese. Yes, this is a very cheesy broccoli cheddar soup. Once I add the cream and the cheese, I'll let it all heat back up again in the slow cooker. Will probably take about 20 to 30 minutes, and then it will be ready to serve. For the children, I actually splurged on some bread bowls. They're actually not that expensive. They're about $1.25 a piece at my Walmart. My kids love broccoli cheddar soup in a bread bowl. My husband and I will probably just go for some good old-fashioned sourdough toast. One of my oldest daughter's favorite soups is tortellini soup with sausage and tomatoes and a creamy broth, a little bit of spinach thrown in at the end. And I have made this several times on my channel, so I went back into the vault to get that footage so I can show you how we do that. In my Instant Pot Aura slow cooker, I have it set to the saute function, and I am browning 1 pound of Italian sausage with about half of an onion chopped up. It's actually almost done browning. I love using Italian sausage in things because it's seasoned, so the rest of the dish doesn't require as much seasoning because this one ingredient adds so much flavor. To this, I am adding about 2 teaspoons, about 2 cloves worth of garlic, minced garlic, a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, which is about all I have left, so that needs to go on the grocery list, a little fresh cracked black pepper, 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Mine are different. One of them is fire roasted, and one of them is just regular petite diced tomatoes. I wish I had 2 cans of the fire roasted tomatoes, but this is what I happen to have in the pantry, so we're gonna go with it. And then 2 cups of chicken broth, which I just made from water and bouillon. And because I'm cooking this in my Instant Pot Aura, I'm gonna cook it on the high slow cook function because I feel like the slow cooker functions in this particular brand of crock pot cook at a slightly lower temperature than my crock pot brand crock pots. And I want to be able to come back and finish this up in about 3 to 4 hours. Okay, my soup has been cooking on high for about 2.5 hours. It smells amazing. And now I'm going to stir in 1 9-ounce package of cheese tortellini. And these are actually the fresh kind that come in the refrigerated section. You could use frozen tortellini. You would just want to use half of a 20-ounce bag, and it will take longer for them to cook in the soup. And I'm also going to stir in 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream and 1 cup of fresh grated Parmesan cheese. This recipe also calls for fresh spinach, and I'm going to add a few handfuls of that. You could leave that out if it is, you know, not your thing, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here as well. And I'm gonna pop the lid back on this and let it continue cooking on high for about 15 minutes or so, probably just 10 to 15 minutes until the tortellini are done cooking, and then it will be ready to serve. I am about to get another soup going in the slow cooker for tonight's dinner. And if you are a fan of chicken noodle soup, but you want to take it up a notch, just have something a little bit outside the box where a chicken noodle soup recipe is concerned, then this next one's for you. If you've ever had the crack chicken with the chicken breast and cream cheese and bacon and seasoned with the ranch mix, this is sort of a take on that flavor profile, but in a soup form. In my slow cooker, I have a little over a pound. I think this is about 1.25 pounds of chicken breast. And to that, I am adding 3 carrots, 3 medium carrots diced, and 2 stalks of celery diced. 1 packet of ranch seasoning. And this is what makes this recipe so easy, because this is basically enough to season the soup without having to add a bunch of extra seasoning. And this right here, this is just a bouillon. I'm gonna use about 1.5 tablespoons or so. If you are gonna use chicken broth that's already made up, you wouldn't need this, but I usually just use this plus water. 1 can of cream of chicken soup. Normally I make this from scratch on the stove, but I gotta be honest with you, feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm just trying to get this soup going in the crock pot so I can sit down and have a little rest. But if you want to make yours from scratch, it's really easy. I start with just 3/4 of a cup of broth, 3/4 of a cup of milk, and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. I stir that all together cold, and then I put it on the stove and bring it up to a simmer until the mixture thickens and it's ready to go. I'm adding in about 4 pieces of cooked crumbled bacon. The rest of my package of bacon that I cooked up, I'm gonna save to top the soup when it's finished. And then 6 cups of water. There's more that's gonna go in this soup later, but we're gonna get this cooking low for 5 to 6 hours, high for probably 3 to 4 until the chicken is done and ready to shred up. So give everything a stir, make sure that cream of chicken is all kind of mixed in there with everything else. Pop the lid on, get it cooking, and we'll come back later and finish it up. I made this a lot when the kids were little, and in fact, it was something I made a lot when we were hosting families with young children because it's so kid friendly. And seriously, a lot of times when I made it for other families who were coming over to the house for dinner, they would ask me for the recipe because their kids loved it and just gobbled it up. My chicken is done, and I took it out and it's all shredded up. And before I put that back in, I'm going to add about 8 ounces or about half of a 1-pound package of spaghetti noodles and 4 ounces or half a block of cream cheese. Now I'm just gonna put my chicken back in and pop the lid on and let it cook on high for about 20 minutes until the noodles are done. Last ingredient, stirring in 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and then this is ready to serve up. And I usually just serve it with a little extra cheese and crumbled bacon, some garlic toast or some kind of bread along with it, and it's ready to go. A winner every time, I'm telling you. If you're looking for a good low carb option, I've got one for you. In fact, about a year ago, I made a video of low carb crock pot recipes, and this stuffed pepper soup was one of them. And one of the great things about it is that I think it would be pretty easy to make not low carb if you have other people in the household who are not eating that way, but still keep it low carb for the people who are following that diet. It is from the website Whole Lotta Yum. I'll leave it linked in the description box below, and I'll show you how I'm making it today and give some ideas for how you can vary it according to the way different people may be eating in your household. I am using my slow cooker that has a saute function so that I can brown up 1 pound of ground beef and half an onion chopped all together, and not even have to transfer it from the stove to the crock pot, but you certainly could do that. I have this really cool rotary chopper that I use sometimes for onions. Works like a charm. I think I got it on Amazon. If I did, I'll leave it linked in the description box below. I'm not gonna drain this, you know, like use a paper towel and sop up some of the grease, because this is pretty much the only fat that is going in this recipe, and I really want that to flavor the soup. I'm switching the function to slow cook, and now I am adding 1 teaspoon of garlic salt, 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, pepper to taste. 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire, a couple teaspoons of minced garlic, 2 bell peppers chopped. I used 1 yellow bell pepper and 1 red bell pepper. We're not big fans of the green bell peppers, but I think any kind of bell pepper would do. 1 big can, that's the 14-ounce can of tomato sauce. It calls for 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I'm just gonna use 1 can of petite diced tomatoes and then 1 can of tomatoes with green chilies, AKA Rotel, to add a little bit of a kick to this. The recipe calls for 3 cups of broth. I'm only adding 2 because we kind of like our soups a little less brothy. If you see chunks in there, it's just the bouillon because I tend to make my broth from bouillon. And I'm just gonna pop the lid on and let that cook on high for 3 to 4 hours, low for 5 to 6, kind of your typical thing. Everything in there is cooked. It's just basically simmering together for flavor now. Actually, I guess the veggies aren't technically cooked, but you know what I mean. Everything that needs to cook is cooked. It's just gonna all simmer together and all those flavors are gonna be delicious, and then we'll come back and finish it up. I have been smelling this simmering for the last few hours, and I have to say that it smells fantastic. I cannot wait to pour myself a bowl of this and dive in. I think it's gonna be really flavorful. I am eating this for lunch today with a little bit of cauliflower rice and some shredded cheddar cheese to finish it up. If I'm offering this to my kids, I'd probably just make regular rice for them. I might even have like some beans and some corn that I heat up that they can add to their bowls if that's something that they want to add, or maybe some crushed up tortilla chips. Just a few options for how you can vary the way that you serve this and sort of serve it buffet style so people can fix it according to their preferences. Okay, I just have to say that is tasty. I am not even following like a low carb lifestyle, and I would not mind eating that for lunch anytime. Really, really delicious. Just simmering it for so long and letting all the flavors come together. So good. A few weeks back, I found some mini meatballs at Aldi, and I was so excited because I rarely see packages of frozen mini meatballs anywhere except Trader Joe's. So I picked up 3 bags at that time, and then a couple weeks later, I noticed they were running low when I was at Aldi, so I picked up 2 more bags for my freezer. So I really wanted to do some kind of sort of Italian style soup recipe with these because they're the perfect size for soups. The big ones are just too big. I feel like when I'm eating a soup, I want to be able to sample most of the ingredients in every single bite, so the big meatballs don't work really well for that, but the little ones do. So I found a recipe for a crock pot meatball soup from the Chunky Chef. I'll leave it linked in the description box below, and I used that as a jumping off point for the recipe I'm making today. I started by chopping, dicing, prepping my veggies, 3 medium carrots, 2 stalks of celery, about half an onion, and 3 or 4 cloves of garlic pressed. I put those into my slow cooker and then added 1 big can, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. You could use a couple of smaller cans of whatever tomatoes you like. Fire roasted tomatoes I think would be really good in this as well. I seasoned this with Italian seasoning, about 2 teaspoons, salt and pepper to taste, a little bit of Worcestershire, probably a couple of teaspoons, and also a couple of bay leaves. This is totally optional, but I decided to go ahead and use about half a cup of red wine. You could just substitute some extra broth for that. My mini meatballs are in a 2-pound package. I thought that was more than I really needed for this recipe, so I only used about half the bag of frozen meatballs, give or take. And when my better than bouillon jars get low, when there's only a little bit left, I will put a little warm water in them and shake them up so I can get all of the broth base out. And then I added a quart of water. That's 4 cups of water. I like to save my Parmesan rinds. That's the end of the Parmesan wedge. I just keep them in a little baggie in my freezer, and this soup recipe is the perfect thing to throw those in. If you don't have them, it's okay. It just adds a little bit of extra flavor. I got that going in the morning before we went to church, and it's been cooking on high for about 3.5 hours, so we're ready to add some of the rest of the ingredients. I'm gonna add 1 cup of ditalini pasta. These are the little bitty round pasta shapes, and also about a cup of half and half. I'm gonna give that a stir and pop the lid back on and let it cook on high until the pasta is done. It will probably take about 20 to 30 minutes since I added that half and half and it was cold, so it can come back up to temperature and cook that pasta. And even if you were cooking your soup on low before, when you add the pasta, you wanna go ahead and bump it up to high so that the pasta will cook faster, so that the mixture will come to the right temperature to cook that in a decent amount of time. While that's cooking, I'm gonna make some cheesy garlic toast to go along with it to dip in the soup. And we are gonna take a little shortcut for that.
because I'm gonna use some Texas toast like this that's already made up from the freezer. And I'm just going to add some shredded cheese to this, some shredded Parm, and also a slice of provolone cheese, and pop them under the broiler to make a really delicious cheesy toast to dip into this soup.
Thank you again to all of my viewers. We recently hit a huge milestone here on See Mindy Mom, 200,000 subscribers. So thank you for helping me reach that. And if you're not subscribed, you can click this button right here. And if you want to watch some more videos, YouTube thinks that these might be interesting for you. See you there.